Okay, everybody, what another terrible week for this football club that we once had. We've stood here many times before because we believe in what's right and what's wrong. We've been protesting for 4.5 years, it feels like now. It's not just us, the supporters, that are suffering, it's the staff that are suffering as well. It's an absolute sham.
It's been a strange few years to be a Charlton fan. There's been misery, protests, relegation, but also the Lee Bowyer revolution, a last-minute winner at Wembley, promotion. All of this somehow took place under the same owner, though he can't really take any credit for those positive bits. Back in 2014, Roland Duchatelet took over as Charlton Athletic owner, and so commenced one of the most shambolic periods in the club's history.
It was all quite grim, quite fast, to be honest.
It's been a disaster all the time he's been here.
The systematic destruction of the club and what it stands for.
So, Roland Duchatelet, who is a Belgian business owner, I think he got famous through sort of like microelectronics, decided to take over the club when we were in a bit of a dire situation, and it only got more dire.
In the beginning, he set out to add Charlton to a network of clubs that he already owned. Budapest in Hungary, a team in Spain, Alcorcón, a team in Belgium, St Truden, another team in Belgium, Standard Liège, a team in Germany, Carl Zeiss. The idea would be that Standard Liège sat at the top of the pyramid of teams and players were moved throughout the network, which saved money, was more efficient. That worked in theory, but in practice, English football doesn't really work like that.
First thing he did was employed Catherine Mayer. A lot of Charlton fans would say she wasn't quite competent enough for a football club, let alone a football club the size of Charlton.
She didn't care for the club's history, and if people didn't like the way things were being conducted, well then they didn't have to come anymore.
There was a really poor transfer policy.
It started with the quality of player that you started bringing into the club.
Replacing our best players like Jan Kermgan with inept players from the Belgian 3rd Division.
European players from a lower level can actually come in, but at less cost to him.
Of course, sacking Chris Powell after all the good work that he'd done. Chris Powell wasn't prepared to play the players that Châtelet had imported from Belgium.
Roland has done a lot of bad things, sending emails to the manager to tell him what formation he should be playing, which players he should be picking.
Accusing the fans of wanting the club to fail.
Taking advice from a 22-year-old scout who used Football Manager and YouTube to make decisions.
His cost-cutting drives.
The underfunded squads, a churn of managers, coaches coming and going.
Barely attending any matches himself.
He's never been to a game. He's bought a club, he's never been to a game.
Openly referring to the fans as customers.
No communication.
Even going as far as to trying to sue fans for what they put on social media.
And then Carol Fry, I think that was probably the final straw, not just for me, but for most people. His appointment didn't make any sense at all. And the results that followed proved what a ridiculous appointment that was.
The club stagnated, we were quickly relegated.
Plummeted down the leagues.
Managerial merry-go-round, attendances falling.
Every game was miserable, everyone's upset, no atmosphere.
Generally damaging the club and ripping the heart out of Charlton.
It wasn't just ripping out the heart of the club, it was ripping out your heart.
I think there's a special type of pride in being a Charlton fan.
My name is John Barnes. The first game I went to at the Valley was in 1964 against Crystal Palace. I think every fan likes to think that their club is special. I think our football club is a little bit special in as much as it has a very strong link with the local community. One of the few clubs that was actually formed by the local community, by kids in the community. Local people from the community helped dig out the valley and help build a stadium there. The community have always taken part in the development of the club.
Historically, there's a lot of pride for our status in South East London. This is the club that had about 70,000 people coming to the Valley decades ago. We're the only South East London club with major silverware, having won the FA Cup.
My name is Jamie and I've been a Charlton fan my entire life, so 22 years. When I was growing up, it was like Charlton were in the Premier League, 7 years, playing teams like Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea. turning them over a few times as well.
It's always sold itself as being a family club. There's never been much money here. It's never been a money club, even in the Premiership years.
I think with any football club you're always going to get like the
rowdy lot.
Yeah, the rowdy lot. But mostly, you know, it's quite nice.
Passionate.
Yeah, passionate.
I think it's the fans and the fans organisation which we showed with the Valley Party.
As a fan base, we fought to get back to the Valley to save the club.
When we were exiled to Selhurst Park in the late 80s, we won the right to come back here through setting up a political party which is unique among British football fans.
The most enjoyable memory was getting back to the Valley in 1992. Probably the best day of my life, if that doesn't sound too sad.
This is genuinely a club that people have supported for generations, and they bring their kids to and their grandkids to, and you could just see it where people were just like, I can't bring myself to come because it's not the same place.
It's not about when you started protesting. It's not about who said what before. It's about standing together, because it ain't getting any better. And there is no world that's going to make any sense at all whilst Roland Duchatelet is still involved in Charlton Athletic. He needs to go, and he needs to go now.
He'd bought the wrong club and he took on the wrong fan base, because we've got form for this. We've got form for organisation and creativity and getting together.
There was a certain amount of unrest around. There were certainly people unhappy with the ownership. There wasn't any communication. You don't know what you're doing! It had to come to the front and we had to do something. We had cards. Essentially it was to bring everyone together, mobilise the fans and start the protests. The obvious ones were throwing beach balls on the pitch. We had the pigs. We had a procession, a funeral procession down to the ground. The big one, Taxi for Roland.
The protests here and the people organising them have been absolutely fantastic, grabbing a lot of media attention. But Roland hadn't been to the Valley, he hasn't been to the Valley since October 2014. So we had to think, like, how much is this getting through to him? How can we really kind of hit him in his own backyard?
We got people to go out to Belgium.
Suddenly we're in his hometown of St Truden, where he owns another club over there. We linked up with their fans, organised a march that day right into their stadium, which was absolutely fantastic. Got onto the pitch, we're singing kind of Roland out chants and really kind of letting him know that we were there and that he can't escape us, and we're going to keep chipping away and chipping away and chipping away in his own backyard until he sells us.
He didn't really like it. He didn't think Charlton fans would be able to mobilise themselves and go that far to make a point and let him know that, you know, we're still not happy with what you're doing.
The fan movement against Roland has been absolutely fundamental to him going. He had no intention to sell without the kind of resistance he's faced.
On January the 2nd, 2020, Charlton Athletic announced the club had at last been sold. After years of fan organisation and creativity, the Duchatelet era was over. So what next? Well, perhaps only time will tell whether Charlton fans have in fact got their club back.
An owner just has to come in, embrace the fans.
Respect our stake in the club as fans, respect what the club is about and its history.
When you look at what has happened to Blackpool, when you look at what's happened to Coventry, when you look at what's happened to Leyton Orient, I think we're getting perhaps to a point where fans have got to be involved.
I think my dream scenario would be someone that genuinely cared about the club and the spirit of it, the family club, the nature that Charlton fans tend to be here for life.
But we have to be very careful what we wish for, because it could be that someone else comes in and does something equally as bad, or, you know, we need to make sure we get the right people in.
The whole week leads to a Saturday where, regardless of the result, we at least spend time with our family and our friends and feel like we're part of something and feel like we belong to something. And it's really hard to feel like you belong to something when the owners don't even care. They don't care about you being there, and everything feels like it's falling apart around you. I don't know why, as an owner, you'd want to go down in history as a bad guy. Roland is now going to be forever written in the Charlton history books till the end of time as the guy who fucked things up for us. And I don't know why he would want that as a legacy. So as a new owner, you don't want that. You want to be known as the guy who turned things around, who ushered in a period of stability, who helped revive this club, and as a result, gain the respect of thousands of fans. That is what the power of football is. You can directly influence people's lives and make people happy.
Go,